Hello. Today I would like to talk to you about finding community. This is something that is very important as you are walking this witch's path in determining whether or not you choose to walk this path as a solitary practitioner or whether you engage in joining a coven or another type of community. These decisions are very personal decisions, and there's no right or wrong answer to either one. It's really kind of based on who you are, what you're hoping to get out of your practice, and how much you feel potentially that you might need to have that social interaction to add a newer layer and a different dimension to the work that you're doing. Solitary practitioners generally do all of their work individually, meaning that they celebrate the Sabbats, they celebrate the Esbats and the lunar days, and they don't join as part of a group in those celebrations. They make each celebration uniquely their own. They also have the advantage of being able to do these celebrations or do their magical work or engage in their magical studies whenever they want to, because there's no time schedule other than what that particular individual has. This can be very, very rewarding for you, and especially if you are someone who is a little more disinclined to join groups and may also have the type of work or life schedule that does not really accommodate having specific days and dates that you are required to be in attendance at things. Joining a coven is another form of practice that can be engaged in. Joining a coven means that you are joining a group of individuals who come together. They work collectively, energetically. They try to establish within themselves common grounds and common threads of the practices that they do. And there is usually within the coven a priest and or a priestess who kind of mans the helm and acts as leadership for that particular group, although this is not necessary. Some covens are actually offshoots of study groups. You will often hear the word circle being used within the community as far as people coming together. Sometimes these are solitary practitioners who come together, and at the Sabbats or during the Esbats, they come together and they circle together, but they're not necessarily formed as a particular magical group or a coven of witches. A coven offers the benefits of being able to have exchange with other like-minded individuals. And if a coven is run very well, you also have the advantage of stability. But then, of course, this also means that there are schedules and there are times and there are roles and responsibilities, because you are part of something that is larger and more extended than what your own personal work may be. Within our tradition, we have several covens. We actually have 14 covens at this particular time. The 14th is in the process of forming. The 13th just formed last year. And with that, we have the advantage of being able to have 13 other groups of individuals with varying styles of leadership as well that we can draw from as our own personal magical resources. When we come together for our annual retreat, and all of our membership is there and all of our covens are represented, it is truly a magical experience, because often people that you don't normally get to see routinely and regularly are there, and you have the opportunity for checking in with each other. The other advantage to belonging to a coven and or a tradition, and all covens are not necessarily part of a formal tradition. That's not a requirement either. But the benefits of being part of something that is larger than yourself means that you have unending resources of experience to draw from as well. So you come together, you share notes, you've gone to a ritual together, You share notes about that, and it's a great way to boost your learning skills. Now, solitary practitioners can do the same thing as well. In fact, many solitary practitioners, since they don't want the constraints of actually belonging to a coven and or a tradition, forge their way in finding and seeking out those sources that enrich their personal practice through festivals, through conferences, through a variety of other ways, through going to a tradition that has large open rituals. They can also access and tap into some of that knowledge in a way that really establishes the feel of community without having to necessarily have all of the time constraints that are put on you. The thought of having a study group or a circle is also a very nice way to bring together a group of friends or people to kind of test out and try it to see if perhaps ultimately you would like to form a coven from that group of people. In our tradition, the way that we form a coven is actually by offering a series of classes. Usually they are some sort of an intro to Wicca class. We offer a series of classes with the intention that from that pool or from that group of individuals, we may actually have those who are interested in joining a group and are interested in becoming part of our tradition. All the while, everyone is having the benefits of these wonderful classes that are presented. And usually by the time the last set of classes is finished, there's a pretty good sense of who is interested, who would like to pursue it a little bit further, who may be acceptable candidates, who may not be. And you really have a true sense of getting to know each other. This is also another way of a solitary practitioner being able to enrich their studies. Going to open workshops, going to open classes, and especially if you find a teacher that you resonate with in terms of the style and the material that's being offered, often you will find that there are one or two or three or more individuals who regularly come to that particular person's workshops and classes. And even though the intention for all of you is not necessarily to join the coven of that individual if they happen to have a formal group, it is, in its own way, forming a group of individuals who regularly come to something, share their energy, and are learning at the same time. Walking this witch's path does not mean that you have to walk it alone. Now, of course, that, again, is a personal preference. Some people prefer to keep everything quiet and kind of hidden and cloaked away from the general group of people, not necessarily because they can't afford to let other people know what practice they're doing, but because that's just simply their style. For some individuals, this path is so personal, and everything that they do within this path, they may consider to be a sacred offering to the energies that they are interacting with, that they don't want to share that with other people. And they feel that this is a personal one-on-one communication that they're having. And that's absolutely fine. Other people, because we are mostly social animals, find that they may remain solitary practitioners for an extended period of time, but then in the course of their studies and in what they are able to actually access, they find that they come to a point where it's really difficult to get the information and get the material, and more importantly, have the general and the global experiences that they feel they need. That's often when a solitary practitioner will begin to reach out into the larger pagan community. This is also a great time for you to explore the other practices that are held under that pagan umbrella. Those practices which are not strictly witchcraft, and we talked a little bit about in the very, very beginning, there are varying things that are under that general umbrella of paganism today. And there are new things evolving that are eclectic blends of a variety of things every single day, which is truly exciting in a lot of ways. So by reaching out into the community as a whole, it gives you an opportunity to test out and try perhaps different things that you might eventually feel you wish to adopt into your own practice. And it also gives you an opportunity to validate those things that already are working for you, just by simply seeing or experiencing something that maybe was not the experience you hoped it would be, or it just didn't get you to the place that you normally get to in your own personal work. The pagan community has grown exponentially, and there are more and more festivals that are occurring throughout the country and also throughout internationally as well. Often these festivals are great ways, if you can afford the cost of the festival and if you can afford the travel as well, they're great ways to forge connections that are beyond even your own geographical location. When I go to a conference, I often have the opportunity to meet a diverse group of people who are coming from all different places within the United States, depending on what that particular conference or festival may be. I always make sure that I bring a business card with me, mainly because I am a high priestess of a coven, but it could even be just something as simple as a business-like card with your name on it and your email address on it, so that when you meet someone that you think, oh, you know, this individual is really interesting, and I think I'd like to get to know more about their practices and who they are, and maybe even know more about how they started on whatever path it is that they're on. You have something to actually give them. It's a very nice way of introductions. And I'm seeing that more and more when I do go to these events where people are not, especially if they've come with a group, they're not just staying with their own group. They're commingling and they're interacting and they're engaging other people. And that is a wonderful, wonderful way to make use of the time and the money and the effort that you may have spent in getting to whatever the event is. There are also many excellent one-day events or weekend events that you can access depending on where you are in the country. There are a lot of very well-known teachers, many of whom are authors as well, that offer these types of classes at various times throughout the year, and there may be some subject that just absolutely piques your curiosity. And you find yourself in this setting now, not only with an excellent teacher and someone who has a lot of experience under their belt, but perhaps other people as well who are teachers in and of their own right and have a lot of experiences that they're happy and willing to share with you. Beyond the pagan community, one of the things of walking this witch's path that is inherent within it, and it is actually in large part a responsibility, is in the stewardship of the earth itself. Also, if you are so inclined, and it seems as though this particular path attracts many people who are involved in some way in interacting with others, either healthcare professionals or educators, or they work with children, social workers, so on and so forth, I would encourage you to also find charity events, to find fundraising events where it doesn't matter what your spiritual practice is. The important thing is that you can infuse that time that you're spending and that time that you're giving so freely of with the own personal magic that you have. You can infuse it with the intention of bringing about the highest good for all concerned in whatever setting that may be. I know a lot of witches who work in soup kitchens who offer up their time to tutor children or work with the Big Sisters and Big Brother organizations who do some of these runs where you get people to sponsor the number of miles that you're able to make it. All of those things are actually acts of magic. If you remember in the very beginning, I said that walking this path is 365 days a year, 24/7. The spiritual and the mundane pieces of you are continually interacting and are continually interwoven. So that means that every time you give of yourself freely, every time you make an effort to actually make someone or some situation better, is an act of magic. That is the witch's way, is to engage in those things where the will and the intention for productivity, for creativity, for actually really making a difference, and, you know, in alignment with the saying that is, if you are not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. These are all things that the witch takes up as his or her mantle to engage with the greater world. These are things that you can do whether you are a solitary practitioner or you belong to a coven or you're part of a larger community as a whole. It is actually your responsibility to do that, just basically as a human being, to be mindful of how and where your energy is being used and how you are engaging and interacting. Now, back to the stewardship of the earth part. There are many environmental causes, environmental action groups, just simply going to a park or somewhere nearby where there is routinely a lot of trash, taking an extra trash bag, maybe picking up some of that trash, again, very carefully, however, because I don't want you to get hurt either, and you know, you need to be mindful of what that trash might contain. But just that simple act, the thought that when you go and you have lunch at a fast food restaurant or somewhere where you clean up after yourself, or you go to an event, being mindful of leaving the space better than you found it, making that little extra effort to perhaps help fold up chairs and put them away instead of just leaving them there, or cleaning up, getting an extra napkin and wiping up anything, the debris that might be on the table, even though you know that someone is being paid to come along with a dampened cloth to do that. It's all about your intention. The more you use those intentions in all of the spaces that you engage in, the more you actually become part of a collective consciousness that is a bigger community. So you see where I'm going with this is that you don't have to belong to any group in order to accomplish the daily things of magic that make you who and what you are as a witch, as a pagan, as a human being. These are all things that we can use in our daily practice, not just our spiritual practice, but also the mundane action of being part of a larger society. The more we engage in this way, it's not necessary for anyone to know what your preferred spiritual path is, because in that way, you actually are leading by example. We all know that there are many stereotypical thoughts and images out there of what a witch is. There are even more of what witchcraft is and who and what we worship and how we do it and all of those things. I have always made it a personal preference of my own that I conduct myself in a civil, in a productive manner, regardless of the setting that I am in. I have also made it a personal practice that it really is not anyone's business unless I choose to share what my personal path is, to know what my practice is. That's not to say that I'm hiding. It's not to say that, don't ask, don't tell. It's just simply that it wouldn't really matter to me personally what my spiritual practice was or what my religion was. I still don't feel that that's something that you necessarily have to share with anyone. You know when the time is right, and there have been times that I have shared it with people, but that's only been because it was either necessary or it was something at the time that I felt that individual actually needed to hear and needed to know. Beyond that, the interesting piece with all of this is, as you can see, I look like an ordinary suburban housewife, mother. I don't fit the stereotypical image of what a witch is, let alone what a high priestess of a very active coven and a tradition is. And so oftentimes when I have shared this information with individuals, they've been surprised at how normal I was, because what they were expecting was someone very flamboyant and someone who, exemplified every stereotype that we could lay on top of not only what a witch is, but what a pagan is, someone who is not Christian or not of the mainstream religions. So my suggestion to you is that if you feel compelled to share your path with people, spend a little time first in sorting out what image it is that you wish to project, how you wish to present yourself. If it's really necessary, even if you're super excited to tell everybody that you're a witch, is it really relevant in that particular context that you're in? And use discernment in how you share that information, because one of the things that is common in what is called the witch's pyramid, which kind of gives suggestions or guidelines of affirmations, one of the main pieces of the witch's pyramid is to be silent. To be silent means that you know exactly what the power is that is held in silence. You know exactly what the power is that is held in deliberate, intention-filled, and paced wording. You know when to share and when not to share. Not that you're giving away any of your power. That's often thought that that's what that's all about, and that's the case, or that you need to be secretive or you need to be hidden in everything that you do. It has nothing to do with those things. It has everything to do with the fact that you are part and parcel of the energetics of the universe. So placing your words carefully, giving your energy in a way that is going to move in accord with the flow of the energy that's around you, and more importantly, stopping to listen, pausing to actually look and see and observe what is needed, will carry you a long way. All of these things are skills that as you walk this path, you will learn to develop. These are things that are also particularly important in the decision that you make as to whether or not you choose to remain a solitary, when and if the time is right for you to reach out into the broader community in whatever way that looks like, and ultimately when and if you ever feel that you wish to be part of a more formal structure such as a coven. You may even find that you end up from a study group or a circle that you have started, actually become one who forms a coven yourself, a group of witches who gather, who work their magic, who weave their energy together in a way that makes for one powerful flow, and who live, breathe, eat, and drink the words, the energy, and the bounty of the life that is abundant on this planet as well as the cosmos. I will see you again next time, and I hope this information will be something that you'll spend a little time with as you're beginning your path, or you are already established on this path, and that you will also be sure to honor whatever it is within you that calls you to another space of community. Blessed be.